Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hello, Fearless Freedom family. We are back, and today we have a very special guest all the way from Ohio. And it is me. Okay, my daughter just audio bombed our podcast. But yes, so we have medical mama, RN, global health advocate, basically a woman on fire who has a heart to help her community, to help to uplift other women. And she's going to share with you all that she's up to. Shukri, can you tell us all about you and what you're up to?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be on here with you. I've been listening to your podcast, I've been following you, and you're just another woman on fire, and you're an inspiration for us all. So, and to be a woman from, the medical background, medical body, and, inspiring and shaking and disrupting, it's really amazing. So my name is Shukri. I'm a registered nurse, BSN. I'm doing my master's to become a family nurse practitioner. I've done pretty much all levels of the nursing. Like I've started out in the community doing home health, and then a long-term/rehab facility with like vented patients and patients with dementia, elder patients with Alzheimer's, behavioral things like that. And then home health I've done, and then moved to acute care, where I've done pediatric emergency. That was my recent experience. Pediatric ER, just up until I had my baby. I have a 17-month-old baby.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy. They grow up so fast. So done pediatrics up until, having my baby. I had a pregnancy complication, and then after I had my baby got sick, having seizures. And so at the time, my husband was traveling for work at the time, my ex-husband at the time. So we decided that I would be at home with him. And so I stayed at home with him until he, did better from his seizures. Didn't have any more seizures. Was weaned off his seizure medications. Did great, and then eventually ended up going back to, ended up going through a divorce, and then went back to work. But went back to work in primary care because I thought it's not as high stress, high demand, high energy environment as the ED would be, just because now that I was a single parent, and I had a baby to raise, right? So I did that. And so from that, pretty much realized that primary care, being a single parent, limited family support system, I really started to question what really mattered to me. Being a parent, and when you have a little one relying on you, you really start to care more about your time and what it is that you do. And so I started to evaluate, where I was at, what I was doing, and, just realize that, it was time for me and for my baby to start following my passion. I felt like the environment that I was in was really not nurturing my creativity and my energy, my ideas, really no platform to discuss and be innovative and be creative. There was really no room for that. And so I'm a very creative person. I love community. I love making impact. I love making changes. I love bringing new ideas. I love working with people. And so I realized that this time I need to sit down. I need to evaluate and really figure out, to really step back and choose for myself what it is that I want to do, that I'm passionate about. And that meant stepping away from primary care. So I put in 2 weeks notice and ended up leaving my work. It was very scary.
That is very scary.
Yeah, it was very scary because everybody was like, what did you do? And I'm like, I left work. And they're like, you're a single parent now. And of course, I saved money, and I just didn't, I made sure that I was in a good place for a couple months, planned out. But still, it was very scary. And what made it more scary even was the fact that there were people around me that, that fear factor, that were like, you left work, what are you going to do? What are you doing now?
I call those the haters.
Yeah. yeah. And then there are like some people that are like just genuinely concerned because they've never been that route before. They've never really taken risks.
It's thinking really outside the box. I mean, yes, this is not a common practice.
Right, exactly. And so there's very few people out there that are willing to do something like this. And so majority of people don't get it. And so they'll ask questions, though. They'll ask questions, and through their questioning and the fear that they have for you, like, you then get anxiety, you get anxious, start to get anxious. But then what is the common thing is that why you did this, right? At the bottom of your heart, there's that settling factor that you did this for a purpose, you did this with purpose. And so you're content in your heart that you're doing the right thing and that you're gonna make a greater impact because you've taken the time to research, to discover yourself further, and to discover what is out there, all the different opportunities that are out there, and all the impact that you want to make through it all. And so that, then thinking about that and tapping into that made me more thrilled, actually. And people just didn't get why I was so,
because you're an entrepreneur at heart. Yeah. That's what's up. That's what's up right there.
Yes,
speaking like a true entrepreneur.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it was great. And so I'm now at a point where I've tapped into, and I learned so much. The amount, in 2 months, the amount of things that I've learned, I've not learned in the past year, to be honest. There's always learning, but the extent of the learning that I've had in 2 years that I stepped down from work, to really like research and go out there and open my eyes to what is out there, it's impeccable. And the people that I've met, the relationships that I've made, it's impeccable. I tapped into, I told you I'm doing my master's in FNP to become a family nurse practitioner, but I tapped into, through somebody, nursing informatics. It's a field that I knew very little about, and had really exposure to. Even though as a nurse I use technology all the time, and I use electronic health records, and there's so much technology around me that I use and facilitate, I didn't realize that I could really be at the forefront of that technology. I never, had that perspective. I never had that angle of thinking. And it took a stepping away from, bedside nursing to figure that out. And it took conversing with people in the field to figure that out, and to really and search and find out, and go to conferences like HIMSS in Central South Ohio, and connect with people, and really say like, okay, I'm a lot more tech than I ever thought I am. I have so much. And then I really was interested, being in the primary care. I was an Epic super user.
Okay.
right? I
Yeah, we're
liked
about to get
helping
epic
people.
at our spot here.
Yeah, right.
One
So
of
I was
them
at
had it already,
I
but this one that I work at mainly, they're about to get it in January. So yeah, no, that's huge.
Epic is awesome. So yeah, so Epic is great. And so working in the primary care though, this is one thing that I was grateful for is that, you know, getting exposed to the Epic super user because
Hmm.
I really liked, you know, that's actually where it originated. And I'm like, this is great. This is I really want to do more of this. I really want to know more about this. I want to delve into this more. And so that's when after that is when I had a conversation with somebody in nursing informatics who's really, one of the pioneers and, just an exceptional person in the field. She was
Okay.
an inspiration to me. Had a conversation with her, really opened my eyes and my mind to the world of healthcare technology, IT. Her name is Danielle Ciari. She goes by Inno Nurse. Amazing,
Okay. Shout
amazing,
out to
so
her.
cool. Shout out to
Yeah.
Danielle. I stalk her all the time. I follow everything she does because she's just a wealth of knowledge. Her and so many other people. And so now pursuing a certification in nursing informatics.
Okay.
Just really like I'm the type of person that if I'm really passionate about something, like I go 100%. Like I go in, I live it, I breathe it. I sleep it. I'm day and night researching, learning,
Hmm.
reading articles about machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's just so fascinating. Blockchain. I knew blockchain from like a Bitcoin perspective,
Oh yeah,
you
but
know,
blockchain from personnel
from from
standpoint.
a from
Yeah.
a healthcare
Oh yeah.
perspective.
Oh yeah.
It was just fascinating, and I never thought that I would really understand, but it's just so cool. And so I'm like, I want to advocate for nurses and nursing innovation and nursing, raise more awareness about healthcare technology and nursing. And then I've also had the time to give back to my community, establish a nonprofit organization that is a medical professional organization that advocates for immigrant community. Being an immigrant refugee as well, um, I also had a sense of always wanting to give back and um, you know help eliminate disparities and access to health. And the Somali community, which is the community that I'm from, um, is here in Columbus, is a large Somali community, somewhat of a newer immigrant community, and so there are a lot of disparities, access to health and lack of health literacy. And so myself and other health professionals, doctors, nurse practitioners, epidemiologists, got together to establish, Central Ohio Somali Medical Association to advocate for the health of the community and bridge the gap between health networks and the community, and then also help to facilitate professional um, development and growth for young Somali professionals to inspire and empower them to come to be innovative and to lead and to come up with their own ideas and giving back to the community, because there's a huge medical professional here that are Somali, but they're very disconnected, they're fragmented. And so we thought on one end, we will bring together the professionals, utilize their skills and expertise, and then also to have a path of professional development and growth and inspiration for them, but also give back to the community as well as
Oh,
a
awesome.
greater
So
network. Yeah.
the nonprofit is the Central Ohio Somali Medical Association. That's a nonprofit.
Cosma.
Okay.
Yes,
All
that's the
right.
nonprofit. Yeah.
So we'll definitely make sure that that's in the show notes. So if anybody is
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
area, in
Yeah.
your Columbus area, that they
Yeah.
can access that and take advantage
Right.
of that great, or even offer their services. So there's a Somali health professional that's listening to this and are willing to, I mean, I'm sure you guys accept people who are not Somali too, right? I mean,
Oh. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. So this is the objective. The objective is to collaborate with non-Somalis. It's an uh, organizational, interprofessional partnership, community organizations, the health networks. So we are at its infancy. We have a 3-step thing that we're doing right now. where we met with the Somali health professionals to identify them. So we had a first event, a forum, to sit down with them to identify what their issues were. Then our second step is to sit down with the Somali community, just the general public, to find out what their perceptions and ideas and their needs are for a forum. And then the third step, the needs assessment. And then the third step is to sit down with the greater health community health organizations and networks. So health networks, hospitals, community health organizations, public health, bring them all, insurance companies, bring them all together to give them some insight about our identified areas for key issues and barriers identified by, that we identified through the other two forums that we've had, and then to further identify some ones with them, some issues with that from them, and then to collaborate with them to try to build the bridge. And so, we are building the organization, and it's not just Somalis. It's
right.
It's
I figured as much, but I thought I'd put it out there in case anybody was listening and felt like,
if anybody wants to, we will take all the help we could get. So if anybody in Columbus is interested in serving with us and being part of our board, can bring us some expertise and knowledge and skills, we would love it. We would love the guidance. We would love the support. We would love the partnership.
Awesome. That's some good stuff. So, that this show is really about digging deep on fears and providing ways forward on how to conquer those and essentially emerge victoriously. So there are a couple of things that you mentioned as you were talking that I would mind if you would like to elaborate on. And so there's several things. So the first one that really spoke to me is there must have been a lot of fear surrounding having a complicated pregnancy toward the end, right? And then after your baby was born, having a baby that had a medical problem that had to be addressed pretty urgently. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, yes. So fear, it seems like it's a theme here, right? So somehow, some way. And, at the end of, middle to the end of my pregnancy, like it was really bad. I was in and out of the hospital. I had prior to my pregnancy, I was a very healthy person. To suddenly have experienced this, it was like, what is my life going to be like after the baby? I would have to go through further testing and figure out really what was going on. And so I was just afraid what outcome would I have? What would be my trajectory for my health, my wellness? What person would I be now with this new medical complication and situation? And so it was fear. I had a lot of questions. I had questions about what the future would be like, how to move forward, how to be the best person to my child, best parent to my child, to be absolutely present and healthy for my child. And then it was further compounding. My fear compounded further when he had the seizure. And it was just I was just very emotional. Didn't really know he had the seizure. He had a small seizure in my arms on the day of our discharge. And so
this is day 2 of life.
Yes, day 2 of life. Yeah.
Okay.
Day 2, day 3. Yeah, of life. Yeah.
Okay.
So he had seizures, and so instead of going home, got whiffed away to ICU, a NICU, and having been there for a week, and having to just waking up, even though I had scars from delivery. I had a natural birth, but it itself was complicated. And the injuries from that was very, very challenging. And so it was now my baby in the NICU, and just trying to navigate everything as a new parent, and the pain that I was feeling physically and emotionally, and then breastfeeding, and my getting engorged, and losing a lot of milk, really, because baby was in the NICU was at one point on, tubes, so he wasn't really getting fed, and
Okay.
just not being able to sit and pump because it hurt to sit
Right.
and pump. And I
Right.
had the donut, but it really didn't help.
Right.
It was hard, and you can't pump, laying down or being on. It was hard to pump laying down or being on your side. So if there's any innovative person that is out there with the technology, that's great, in which you can lay down or be on your side and you
Oh,
can
that
pump.
would be such an
That
amazing
would be such an amazing
invention
thing.
that would
Yeah,
make
where
a lot of
where
money
milk,
and
where
help
milk
a
doesn't
lot of
leak all
people.
over. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Maybe you should come up with that. Because you know
Yeah,
what they
no,
say,
I
you know what they say,
understand.
it's like when you have a pain point and
Yeah.
you're trying to address that pain point, then you realize that there may be many others who have that same pain point. So you never know.
Yeah, if anybody out there is a product designer, or come holler at me.
That's right. That's right.
Contact me. We can potentially talk about ways to maybe improve breast pumps for
Yeah,
mothers
exactly.
who can't
Exactly.
sit.
Right. And there are quite a few. There's not, I mean, it's not
Yeah,
like an
yeah,
insignificant number
yeah.
of people.
Who have
Wow.
who I
So,
can sit now, but at the time it was really hard. And so yeah, so having to lose, just all of that. It was, being up all night from that, and just having to during the day, go to the baby, and then just being on my side, and me being physically in pain, and seeing him in the NICU, and that little
yeah,
baby,
the
and
incubator.
incubator.
Or
It
I don't know. I
was,
guess it is called incubator
yeah,
still.
it
Yeah.
is a baby incubator. Yeah. It was hard. It was hard. It was, and I was a very emotional time. I was always crying. I'm so grateful that I really didn't have postpartum depression,
Hmm.
but I had postpartum blues, because I was crying all the time. I just had fear, a lot of fear, flashbacks of,
Hmm.
him having seizures and everything. It was really a tough time. Yeah. So there
Yeah.
was a lot of fear at that time.
How did you make it through that? Because when I think of that, I mean, there's several things there. So you just gave birth, so of course all the endorphins from having a baby on board are now gone, and then on top of that, you're dealing with the milk coming in and dealing with milk management, which by itself is a huge stressor. And
Yeah.
then you're dealing with your little cherub having to be away from you. You're not getting that one-on-one time with him because he's undergoing medical testing and they're making sure that he's okay. Like, what was it that allowed for you to make it through that difficult time? Like, to overcome those fears?
Yeah. I think, having been resilient before in the past through trials, having seen others be resilient, having seen others go through uh, worse, kind of helped me to put things in perspective. And then also, I'm very optimistic. I'm very hopeful, and I don't give up. I push, and I push it for as long as I could. And my baby, I wanted to be there for my baby. I wanted to be strong for my baby, and I wanted for my baby to know one day that he has a strong mom, and to know, he'll one day have his own challenges, and he'll define them in his own way, in his own context in the future. At that time, whatever being strong will mean to him in that context, in that time in the future. But I wanted for him to have an example of, for me, what it was like, this time, my time, to be strong, and to be strong for him, and to know that he was the motivation behind being strong, and consistently being strong, and always being strong, and being resilient. I've learned a lot about resilience, and it can propel you forward. And so just being optimistic and hopeful, and trying to be resilient, and trying to be strong is why I think I survived.
Awesome. And it's interesting that you mentioned resilience, because that is, that is truly the crux of how we can get over situations that are hardships, right? But it sounds like you have such an amazing reserve of intrinsic resilience, which is that resilience that we have within us. And it sounds like you acquired it over time by modeling. So by seeing it in other people, by realizing that you can keep things in perspective. So you can say, yes, my situation is currently terrible and hard and I'm going through it, but I have seen worse situations and other people overcome worse things. And that's really, reframes your mindset and allows for you to be, to really dig deep and pick up on that strength and be able to overcome. So that's amazing, because that's not something that is commonplace. You may think that it's a natural progression of things. Like, you're in a hard situation, you know that there's a better day, you have the hope that it's going to get better, and you just push through. But that's not always the case for everyone who's going through something similar, because you have gone through a lot. I mean, to have a difficult pregnancy towards the end, so you're going along and everything's great, and then towards the very end is when you start having an issue. And then to have a baby, you're getting ready to take your baby home. And on that day you're taking the baby home is when the little guy has a seizure. And now you're thrown into, this barrage of testing, and he's in the NICU and you can't feed, and, your milk's come in, but you can't pump. I mean, all these things, that's huge. There are many people who would not have even wanted to open their eyes the next day. But you were able to find it within yourself. And just from, your experiences, you were able to, dust your shoulders off and essentially get back up again and keep moving. And your why sounds like is the most powerful thing. And I don't know what your baby's name is, but he is clearly your why.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I really believe that, sometimes it depends on the person. Each person has their circumstance and their situation. But for me, thankfully, I, was able to think, this is temporary. This is temporary. It can affect me to the extent in which I let it affect me. Just go through the experiences, feel what you got to feel now, cry what you got to cry now. It's okay to cry. But just be hopeful, and it will change. It will change. You will heal. A scar will heal. You can recover, and knowing recovery and seeing recovery in others, and being in the health medical field and seeing recovery of all sorts of shape and sizes, whether it's a wound or substance addiction or mental health, or there's all kinds of recovery processes, and having to go through trials and just hardship, adversity. I can't even say that word, but
adversity. Yeah,
yeah,
I have problems with it too.
There you go.
Always stumbling over it.
Adversity is, we all experience it to some shape or form, and so knowing that it's one element to that you have the capacity to recover from. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to share a quote that from you. All right. And when you're asked the question, well, what is something that you can teach the audience? What do you want the audience to know? This is what you said. You said, life isn't linear. Take the time to explore what your passion is. Find out ways you can impact change doing what you love to do. I wish I knew the different areas in nursing, especially nursing informatics and healthcare technology. Just remember to be open to change. Don't be afraid to take a risk and try something new. Don't be comfortable and unhappy. Wow. Those are some incredible words of wisdom. I had to share that because I was like, that didn't come from our conversation, but I was like, we have to have those words spoken and out there because they are so powerful. Thank you for sharing that insight. And I know that your story is going to impact many listeners who are, listen to this podcast. And I know that they're going to feel empowered, encouraged, inspired, and that if they're going through something that is rough, that they will draw on what you've said, which is really, you have to get back to having hope, keeping things in perspective, and really, realizing that no matter what's going on, there's always a better day tomorrow. So thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciated you having me here and to have this conversation with you. I'm honored to be here.
So we have to make sure that before we say adieu, that we definitely do our traditional item on the show, which is fill in the blank. All right. And so I'm going to give you 3 sentences to complete. And the first one is, to me, fearless freedom means
not being afraid of taking a risk.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
And then if I am fearless, I will
challenge myself to try something new.
Awesome.
Yes.
And last but definitely not least, my battle cry is
just cry it out.
Just cry it out.
Just cry it out. Yeah. A good cry is a good cry.
That's right.
Yeah.
You feel so much better afterwards, don't you?
Just allow yourself to cry. Don't bottle things up.
Awesome.
Your battle cry is your cry. Go in the bathroom, go to that spot, cry it out, and then feel
it's
good.
All good.
Step back out and you're like, a whole new person.
Ready to go.
Yeah. Let's do this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I am so excited that you took time out of your busy day to spend with us and just drop some nice pearls. Really appreciate that. And sharing your story. It's never easy to do that. So I truly appreciate you taking the time to do that. So we are excited to have you as part of the Fearless Freedom family. And you're welcome to come back at any time, chat with us, especially when you're done with your entrepreneurial pursuit. You got that ignited and you have something you want to share with us or some big you want to share. Definitely come on back and share that too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm coming back for sure.
Awesome.
Yes, I'm building some stuff that I really definitely want to share with everybody. So yeah.
Oh, definitely looking forward to that. Yeah. Definitely.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us today on this journey. Fear is all around us. It strives to stop us from achieving our greatness. We have the tools to be overcomers. By sharing our stories, supporting each other, and doing self-reflection, we can do this. If you found value in this conversation today, please be sure to subscribe to and share this podcast with your friends. By going to your favorite podcast platform, leaving a review and a 5-star rating, you will help to get the word out about it. And that is much appreciated. Thanks again for spending time with us. I appreciate your time and your attention. It is my hope that you will punch fear in the face today and that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.